Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
I'm Heather.
And today, Heather is going to be talking all about habit hacking and creating a life that you don't need to escape from, which I feel like this is just key when you're living an alcohol-free life.
Absolutely. And a lot of the topics that I come up with are the things that I need to hear or that I'm currently researching for myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like February is a good time to revisit habit hacks.
Because everybody set their big goals in January, and you can get really gung-ho in January, and then for some reason it's the longest month in the entire world.
Oh, look, it's a year long.
Right? It really is. And then you're like, ugh, like February gets here and you're almost just exhausted. And in our neck of the woods, we got a ton of snow right at the beginning of February, like winter finally decided to come, and it threw off our schedule because our kids were home, and then I got sick, and then Heather got sick, and I know it was snowing where you were, wasn't it? Where you are?
It snowed in January.
Oh, okay.
We got the flu for like a week.
Ugh.
Talk about being out of your habits and routine when you've got a sick little one and you're also sick and there is no routine. But
No, that's how it was for us. So I need this. Like, this is, I need this call today. I'm trying to get back into just my meditation and workout in the morning. Like, okay, do the two things that you like the most. And as I was doing it, I was like, whoa, you are struggling, because it took so long for me to even do my meditation. I was just fiddle farting around and going through Instagram and TikTok and going on Amazon and shopping. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to get back to your routine. So we need this, it sounds like.
yes, I definitely do. So we're going to talk about how habit hacking can help you design a fulfilling alcohol-free life. I know recently I heard a quote that my consistency is my intensity, and I believe that is why it has kept me alcohol-free for almost 4 years. I also think that when we find what works, being able to tweak it and implement the ways to make it work can be really transformative. And then learning to not shame myself when I'm out of my routine has also been really key. And then narrowing down what are Heather's non-negotiables.
I love that you said the non-negotiable piece, because that's one for me where I kind of go, okay, I've fallen out of routine. I already mentioned it even with like, okay, I'll get back to meditation and working out because those are my two favorite. But I have to then, if I've really fallen out of routine, I have to even tell myself, you can just work out for 10 minutes. Don't feel like you need to do the full workout. And learning to not shame myself over it, it's been something that's come with my alcohol-free journey. Like, I have just gotten so good at saying, this is just where you are right now. And you're not a bad person because you fell out of your routines that you usually follow. It is just because life happened. And like you, I think that habits are what have helped me not even stay alcohol-free, but they've helped me feel like it's easy to be alcohol-free. And I don't like to say that because I don't want people to say like, God, she says it's easy. It's so hard for me right now. It's not always easy to stay in your routine, and it's not always easy to stay alcohol-free, but having habits and routines has made it easier. And they are my favorite thing.
Yes, absolutely. I think the science of habits are really fascinating. And I want to talk about the habit loop and what that consists of. So, number one, the cue, a trigger that initiates the behavior, such as stress, boredom, social situations. Number two, the routine, the behavior itself, reaching for a drink, scrolling on social media. Number three, the reward, the perceived benefit, for example, relaxation, escape, social bonding. So we've got cue, routine, reward. Where alcohol fits this loop, well, and other coping mechanisms fits into this loop, is because they provide the immediate relief. And as we know, the short term often leads to long-term consequences, reinforcing the habit without solving the problem.
And it's it falls into other areas too. I have seen, like, recently it's been very in my algorithm, and it must be because I'm struggling in some other areas. Being alcohol free is not one of them, but just with my healthy eating and with my scrolling social media. Like, those are two areas for me right now where I am going, okay, going through that and going, what's the cue? And then what's the routine, which is those two habits, but then what's the reward that I'm getting out of them? And I saw someone posted on one of my reels about quitting drinking. They said, if you can never figure out why you drink, it will never, like, you will never be successful, basically, is what the person said. And I was thinking, that is what I have to start really narrowing down right now with eating junk food and scrolling my phone. Like, if I can't figure out what's the cue that's making me do it, what is the emotion that's making me turn to it, and that's been something where I'm like, okay, well, then I need to start journaling on that. I need to really start brain dumping on it. And it's the same with being alcohol free, right? It's like, you can't, if you can't figure that out, if you can't go back, and a lot of people will always say, well, I didn't really drink for any reason. Do you hear that a lot?
Yes.
Yeah. And it is because it's really hard to figure out. So it is like, okay, I feel like I took like 2 years to finally say, like, oh, these are the main reasons I drank, because I had a lot of reasons that I drank. But it is really getting in there and saying, oh, what am I feeling when this is happening? So when you are experiencing a trigger or a craving, get in there and really investigate. Instead of giving into it, start being like, what am I feeling? Why is this happening?
Yeah, that's a really great perspective. And I think at first, the folks that I work with one-on-one, we think, okay, we drink because of this reason. And then over time we realize, oh, I'm looking for cozy comfort, or, oh, it's these emotions that I don't want to deal with. Or,
Yeah.
peeling back the layers to figure it out. And at first, my why did I drink was very different than it is now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So identifying the habits that keep you stuck versus those that set you free. Some examples of stuck habits: drinking to unwind, avoiding emotion, self-isolation, impulsive decision-making. Some freeing habits: engaging in intentional self-care, journaling or brain dumps, movement, deep connections, and mindfulness. And you kind of look at it and it's the opposite. And I think to break free of anything, you have to be aware and be willing to be self-aware.
Yeah.
It's one of my most admirable qualities in people. And it's also a very hard thing to do if you're not innately self-aware. Some people are and some people aren't, and that's okay.
Yeah. And it's really easy to say, well, there's nothing backing it up, right? Because that's almost like it's like a free pass then. You can be like, well, there's obviously nothing I can do because I can't figure out the emotion that's underlying or the cue for this or whatever. And when I look at your list of ways you can break free, all of those things are the things that I resist the most when I just want to give in to the short-term win, the short-term gratification. When I look and I'm like, oh, journaling. And the thing is, like, normal life, Sarah loves those things. If you say, oh, you can have some self-care ritual, you can journal, you can go on a walk, I'm like, yes, I love all those things. But when I am in the triggering moment and I see those things, I am like, I don't want to do that. Nope. Yep. I don't want to do that one. I just want to do the thing that's going to give me the instant relief that I'm seeking. So I'm excited to hear your tips on how to start putting these things into action, because I know I need it right now.
I'm the same way. I get mad at my own tools.
Oh my God, all the time. I always laugh at that with both of us because we'll both say it. But there are so many times where I just roll my eyes at, like, that is so dumb. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So I want y'all to think about the power of small shifts. I believe that the idea that massive change overnight is a lie. The transformation is built on small, consistent actions that compound over time. Why is this? Big, drastic changes feel overwhelming, and they lead to burnout or relapse. Change is hard. However, small, intentional shifts build momentum and create more lasting progress. Here's an example. If you can reduce your alcohol intake by replacing a glass of wine for a sparkling water, if you choose to reduce before eliminating it completely, That's a small action that someone could do. I personally can't do that.
Right. I was just thinking that. I was like, I was never successful at reducing, but I was successful at not drinking when I replaced it with a sparkling water. And that was like the first little change that I made.
Yeah. And I think on like a social media scrolling example is I would tell myself, or I'd ask myself, Heather, are you going to remember this in the morning? No, this is a sober Heather. But it's 10:30 p.m. And I was like, I'm not going to remember this. Like, this is not going to have impact,
Yeah.
likely. And that kind of helped me be like, okay, this is a small step. I was thinking about it, and that's a step.
I like that it can even just be the thinking can be the first almost pattern interrupt or the change. Because I do think when you said like make small changes, not big changes, that's so me. Everything that I've done that I've been successful with has been small changes over time. And anytime I am not successful, it's when I'm trying to do every single thing and just totally do a life overhaul. It never works.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's really hard when we have folks like me who have to go big or stay home mindset.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a really
And I think
hard.
that's how most of us are who have alcohol use disorder. We're a go big, go home or go home people.
Yeah.
Those are my people.
Right? And I think that there's so many great characteristics in being that way.
Mm-hmm.
And embracing the small actionable steps will get you to not be that way in all areas of your life.
Yeah.
Because it creates more balance.
Yeah. And I think too, the small actionable steps, us go big or go home people, like we need people to cheer for us when we're doing those little things.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I know you're going to talk about community later on, so I don't want to go too far into it, but it's already that piece to have somebody who can hold you accountable, or just not even hold you accountable, just cheer you on when you're doing the small things. Because the people like us that just want to do all the changes all at once, we need to like see it's worth it. Doing this little thing is very worth it right now.
Yes. I think too, swapping things for a more mindful ritual is really helpful. I'll give a personal example. If y'all been listening for a long time, you might know I was addicted to Sour Patch Kids. I've gotten addicted to oatmeal cream pies.
Those also sound good.
Only in the evening, and it's not as bad as the Sour Patch Kids, but it was getting there because I've seen this movie before. So what I did was I made some hot tea, and I said, if after you have this cup of delicious tea, then you can have an oatmeal cream pie. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
I was just thinking, I was like, oh, I love that idea. I need to do that. I have the hardest time with the hot tea. Like, it was something that I did all the time when I first quit drinking. And that's been one thing where I keep telling myself, like, instead of dark chocolate at night, just have hot tea. And it's that same thing where then I get to that moment in the evening, like all day long, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be I want to be that person. When I think of me, yes, that's the person I want to be. And then the evening comes and I'm so like, I don't want to be that person. I want to be the dark chocolate person. So I like your idea.
Out so I can see it.
Yeah.
It's by my evening meds. Like there's cues, visual cues for me to see it.
I like that because that's what I need is those little cues of that and not of the other, right? And just kind of be like, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. And I think even telling yourself things like, well, I'm going to do it tonight. I'm going to be that person tonight. I'm going to be the tea person tonight, right? And then I'm going to reevaluate tomorrow and see if I liked that better. Like, does morning me appreciate it more when I have, an oatmeal cream pie or dark chocolate or tea? Where do I feel the most settled in my body in the morning?
It's a really good suggestion. I guarantee you the tea is going to win.
I know. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm such a healthy badass. I can't look at me. I'm just a person going through life who enjoys hot herbal tea because that's just who I am. And it sounds cozier too than an oatmeal cream pie.
Yes, it most certainly, it is. I think when we look at swapping an evening drink for a mindful ritual, this is a good idea to try. You won't know if you don't try. Focus on the feeling. If you're seeking comfort, what is comforting other than alcohol? If you need to relax, try a grounding activity. You could do the joy journal. You could do a quick activation of the senses. Take a bath. Go to bed. Walk through a room. Get on your stepper, your treadmill, and see what happens. And then your environment. It's so key in your habit formation. Your environment can support or sabotage your goals. I've done the field research on this very topic. So, you want to declutter your space to remove your triggers. For God's sakes, get the alcohol out of your house if you can. Or, if you can't, say the person you live with drinks, put it out of your sight. Put recess drinks, hot tea in your sight. And when you're working on your habits, say you're in the first 30 days, it's a really good opportunity. Rearrange your living room, rearrange your bedroom, make your space your safe place. And it removes the memory association with alcohol and keeps you busy. You get some dopamine.
Yeah.
You
Makes
feel
you do
better.
those. Yeah. That's something that I need to remember to do. I always love when you talk about how much you changed your environment when you quit drinking because of all the things you listed. Like it can give you that dopamine hit, like you're either decluttering or rearranging and it just feels better to you, right? And you're just changing things up so much in your brain that it has to make you feel a different way about yourself. Like you're just like, whoa, this is all new. Like
Yeah.
that's something, when you said that one too, I'm like, okay, that's one I can do. I can start making that happen. And then now it gives it more of a motivation to make it happen because there are some spaces in my life that I've needed to either reorganize or clean up because they'll make my life more efficient. So
I think rearranging your environment in terms of furniture, decor, just slight changes can be really helpful. So building a life you love. This is probably one of my favorite topics at the moment. So what does a life you do not need to escape from look like? To me, that looks like a sense of purpose and passion in your daily activities, emotional resilience, and the ability to process stress without numbing. That one's hard.
yeah, right?
Deep, meaningful connections with others. That's also hard. And when you take alcohol away for a while, it happens organically. Or it did for me.
Yeah, I think it really does. You just get better at having those deep, meaningful connections, even if it's with people who were already in your life when you were a drinker. I think you just get better at understanding connection is key.
Yeah.
So you start going, okay, if connection is key, then I need to start working on it. And I think this would be such a fun, I mean, I know it would be such a fun because I do it, such a fun journaling activity. What would a life look like that I no longer need to numb out from? And just start like Heather's done before, the best day ever. Is that what it's called? Your best day?
Ideal day.
Ideal day. Yeah. Do that. Write out what's your ideal day. Start writing out where you want to see yourself in 1 month. If you were living a life where you just felt totally free, what would that look like in 1 month?
Yes.
And then start thinking, okay, well, how can I incorporate some of this? Because you can't always do all of it. Or like sometimes you're like, okay, there's things I have to do. There's, so, responsibilities I have to keep in my life. But do that. It is such an important thing. And if you can't see what your life is like without alcohol or without numbing, you're not going to get there. So visualize it.
Yeah. And get creative.
Yeah.
And the ideal day doesn't have to be reality. You could live in Switzerland and ski every day. The point is to get you thinking about, like, in the dreaming and scheming phase.
Yeah.
And then you can scale down to a little closer to a reality action step.
Yeah.
So, how to reconnect with joy, purpose, and authentic connections. Engaging in activities that light you up. I'll give an example. I have recently went on a DIY spree where I'm painting furniture that I've had for 20 years on my porch, and I like it. I've been thinking about doing it forever. It's inexpensive. I'm outside. I can see the immediate gratification. I can listen to music. I can listen to a podcast because y'all know I love to couple 42 things together. I think it's my ADHD.
I think it's the best form of multitasking.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, what lights you up? Creative outlets, hobbies, volunteering, and then build relationships based on genuine connection rather than shared habits. What do I mean by that? Good time Charlies that you used to drink with. Are you friends with this person because you always drank with them, or are you genuinely connected? How do you know that? Talk to them. Be interested. Ask a lot of questions. Get really curious about your tribe, your folks.
I think the Like the reconnecting with joy was something that I had to do. I feel like I took my time doing that. I guess I got really excited about working out and eating healthy and tracking my food almost to like my detriment when I first quit drinking. But it lit me up. It made me really excited, right? And I think the workout piece for it for me was what really was doing some amazing stuff for me. Then it was connecting with people through social media. Like I always think about that. I'm like, what really lights me up? It lights me up when I'm making reels or TikToks. It lights me up when I'm leading calls for day makers. That's really fun for me. But then I took it that step farther when I joined choir and started doing that. And now it's even a step farther with like joining a gym and going to real live workout classes, which is a whole different thing for me. But getting involved, like just finding those people, like you're saying, you can pair that fun activity with people. Total win.
Yeah. I think too, the willingness to try the thing or
Yeah.
thinking about the thing or research the thing, get in that curious mindset about
Yeah.
reconnecting with your joy. And then this falls right in line with what we were just saying. Pair a habit with an existing one. For example,
Yes.
morning coffee, journal. I could go on and on and on and on about habit stacking because it's something that I think it's a gift of ADHD, personally.
I feel like it's the thing when I cannot get a habit to stick, I start thinking, how can I habit stack this? Because I know it's the way it's going to work. Like Ryan and I have our supplements that we're supposed to take, right? And it's like, we never take them. They're just sitting in a cupboard. And so we finally, I was like, what's something we do every day? And Ryan's like, well, we can just do it when we eat breakfast. I'm like, I don't, it's too much going on in the morning for breakfast for me. Like that's not a good time of day. And I was like, let's do it with our lunch. Like Brian and I eat lunch together every single day. And when we do, we watch a show on Netflix. So he was like, I'll get the iPad, you get the supplements. Like we'll both like have our little chore we have to do once lunch is made. And we haven't been perfect at it yet, but it's like we're both really committing to it and sticking to it. So it's getting better and better. So we don't just have supplements sitting in our cupboard now that are coming on auto ship.
That's awesome. That's a really, really good example.
Yeah, it took me a while. Like, I feel like we tried to habit stack it with all different things, but that was the one where we were like, oh, does it happen every day? No, because sometimes, like yesterday, he was off having to do work stuff. So there's days where we miss it, but we're getting better and better at it. It's making us more consistent.
And I want y'all to think about identity-based habits. Instead of saying, I'm trying to quit drinking, say, I'm a person who prioritizes my well-being.
Yeah.
That really helps with your identity-based habit in all areas. Yeah. I used to be a person that said, I can't cook. Well, of course I couldn't cook, because if I tell myself I can't, then I'm sabotaging it, right?
Yeah.
I learned with, I am learning to cook.
I like that. That's better too.
Yeah.
And everybody can cook.
And
right?
I actually can. I just, my like identity, the habit of, I just don't cook, or I can't cook, you know?
Yeah. It was just so wrapped up in it. It's interesting that you say this, because this has been one as I've been trying to get back on like healthy eating. I just want it to be just a natural for me. I told Ryan, I said, I just want to be the person who like, it's just natural for them to be like, oh, I eat this food and I don't eat processed food and I don't eat junk food, but it just comes naturally to me. And that is something that I did when I quit drinking. I started being like, what does a person do that doesn't drink? And I painted the picture of that person in my mind. And I just was like, I will be that person. I will be the person with a morning routine, because that's what I decided somebody who didn't drink, that's what they did. I decided they meditated. I decided they did their gratitudes. And doing that made it so much easier. And that's something where I'm like, okay, we'll step into that now in a different area. Like, I'm a person who doesn't look at their phone at night because I know I sleep better, and I really prioritize sleep. It's super important to me. So I set my phone down at night because that's the kind of person I am. Really lean into that. It's a cool thing to explore. And you don't have to I think that what's fun about it is it's another like almost dreaming and scheming thing. Who is the person who likes to cook? What else do they do? And okay, I'm going to start doing that then. And you might decide later on, like, I don't have to keep doing that thing. Okay, I've made this a habit. So now I don't have to do this other thing, because it turns out that's not something that people who like to cook do.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. So when you're implementing these practical tools, I want y'all to be compassionate towards yourself. I want you to think about progress over perfection. If you slip, what did you learn? What data did you collect? Push off from here and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm. That's something I've been talking about with people who have just gotten through dry January, and then they got into February, and it's almost like you loosen the reins a little bit, and they're like, okay, whew. And I don't know if you stop doing the work, or it's just like old habits try to start coming back in. But anyway, there's a slip, right? My top advice always is don't let it last longer than a day. Get right back in. But don't be mad at yourself. Just kind of say, okay, what did I learn? I can journal on this, and now get right back to work. Mm-hmm. And that is so important, because a slip can turn into a spiral really fast in any area.
Yes, absolutely. And then I want you to surround yourself with people who support your growth. And you might be thinking, well, everybody around me drinks, or everybody around me doesn't want to change for the better. Join groups. Come join the Daymakers. Follow content that aligns with your alcohol-free journey. Check out Sarah. Check out me on social media. Find an accountability partner or a mentor to keep you motivated. You can work with me one-on-one. I offer like a text support. So if people need some reminders or accountability or accountability, it's there without judgment.
I think that is the most important thing, is having that community. And just like you said, when you're like, well, everybody drinks around me, that's how I felt. I had created friend groups that it was very important to me that my friends drank as much as me. So those were my people. And all of a sudden I wasn't drinking, and I was lucky because Ryan wasn't drinking either, but I found online communities. I didn't know there were sober content creators. Like, I was like, what? People talk about this online? I had no idea. So to find those people and think about, okay, if you've read a Quit Lit book, that person has a social media account. So if there's a book that you really like what was yours that was your, the first one,
We Are the
Joy.
Luckiest and the Unexpected Joys of Being Sober by Catherine Gray. And what I love about that particular book is it tells you who to follow on Instagram. You don't even have to think. Yeah. It just tells you what to do.
Yeah. So go read that book. Go read The Unexpected Joys of Being Sober and follow that list. And then all of a sudden, Instagram and TikTok and Facebook do this amazing thing where they start showing you more of that. And then all of a sudden mocktails are showing up for you. And just surround yourself with that positivity.
Yeah. And that's how I met you, Sarah. I saw you on TikTok. I don't remember it. And then I joined the Daymakers, which it wasn't called that then. And then here we are. It's just pretty cool when you are coming into a point in your life where you're like, I need to make a change. And then and what happens. And it is a process. It does not happen overnight.
Yeah. And that's why that progress over perfection is also so key.
Yes.
And having those people, like having a one-on-one coach to point out to you the small wins that you're experiencing that are turning into big wins. Yeah. That's so important.
It is. Because you can't see it yourself sometimes.
Yeah, you really can't.
So we talked a lot about habits and routines and why they're important and how to implement them and basically how to romanticize your life, or a little bit of how to start romanticizing your life. And I want y'all to identify one habit shift that you can implement today.
I like that assignment. And if you want to take it a step farther, you can tag us on social media of what habit you're going to be tackling.
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah.
If this resonates with you, share it with a friend. Make sure you're liking and following us so you get notified when we release another episode, which is every Tuesday. And check us out on Spotify and YouTube so you can see what we look like.
Yeah, and on both YouTube and Spotify, you can comment on the specific episodes. And I'm so excited about it.
Yes.
And you guys are being quiet right now in both of those platforms. So I know you're there because I can see how many people are listening and watching. So comment.
Yeah, please do. We want to know. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
So, all right. We'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.